dudes while urging women to act more like them.
They're always hedging, because in the back of our minds, we weren't raised with the certainty of maleness that, kind of the confidence that young men in their 30s have, which they haven't earned, they just have it. We don't start feeling that and owning that until our 50s and 60s, at a time when we start to be treated as invisible in society.
So true. And it reminds me of my new book, Women Are Invisible at Age 50, and I couldn't be happier. Divorce rumors continue to escalate for the Obamas. Hopefully they can settle it like men.
It was rigged from the very beginning. The Obamas weren't just politicians. They were the main characters of America's most polished, most self-serious political reality show. And Greg Gutfeld just blew the whole set wide open. Michelle's carefully constructed image, shattered. Barack's legendary cool, exposed. From secret book deals worth tens of millions to presidential speeches that were basically Netflix audition tapes in disguise. This takedown is scorching, hotter than that infamous tan suit moment. You will not believe what just got revealed. Watch this before it quietly vanishes.
Michelle Obama surprised fans on our new podcast by saying her pet peeve about her husband is that he's chronically late. For example, we're still waiting on him to admit he's from Kenya. And as for Barack's pet peeve about Michelle, he's mad that she keeps leaving the toilet seat up. When she cleans it. When she cleans it.
Barack Obama was the man who brought a teleprompter to a backyard barbecue and somehow convinced everyone it was the Gettysburg Address. Michelle turned a vegetable garden into a political power statement. Lettuce became her Pentagon. Together, they were America's most self-important romantic comedy. Fewer laughs, way more lectures.
Michelle thinks American men suck.
Let me warn you, your rage does not exist in a vacuum. If we don't get this election right, your wife, your daughter, your mother, we as women will become collateral damage to your rage.
Truly. She says women are invisible. Which women are she talking about? All I see are women in commercials, in TV shows. They're all over the place and they're all yelling at everybody, telling them, I'm a woman.
She's got some serious issues. She needs to go to therapy.
Yes.
And maybe stop doing radio just altogether, because we don't want to hear her speak. But she talks about, how young men were confident, which makes sense because she seems like a pretty confident person growing up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you tell me. But I will say this, and I do believe she's actually biological female. She just plays the role of a man really well. But I would say that I think that it's this kind of stupidity, these types of conversations that actually make women feel inferior. Yeah. I felt confident my whole life. I don't need Michelle Obama to tell me that I'm not going to be confident until 50, which is 30 years from now.
Yes.
If you are enjoying this takedown, please hit that like button and subscribe us. Now let's start with Barack, the man who treated the Nobel Peace Prize like a coffee shop loyalty card. He accepted that shiny medal, and then immediately became one of the most prolific drone strike commanders in modern history. The irony was deafening. For 8 straight years, this man never admitted a single mistake. Not one. He walked into every room like a motivational speaker whose only client was himself.
We have every right to demand that the men in our lives do better by us. We have to use our voices to make these choices clear to the men that we love. Our lives are worth more than their anger and disappointment.
What's that pitter-patter sound I'm hearing in the background? It's the footsteps of Barack running to vote for Trump.
Then came the presidential memoir, Part 1, because apparently his own legacy needed a sequel. 768 pages of let me carefully explain how brilliant I was while conveniently avoiding any wrongdoing. The global economy was crumbling. People were suffering, but the press conferences, absolutely poetic. Barack transformed a full-blown economic crisis into a TED Talk and somehow walked away looking like he personally saved civilization.
Check this out. I'm going to show you how I afforded this car. Okay, you ready? All right, $118 for car insurance. That's how much I was paying, okay? I picked up the car a few months ago, and watch this. Ready? $97 premium. $20 were my fees. $118. Now, I covered up my private information, guys. $39, $118. Check this out, ready? $500 for comprehensive, $500 for collision, $500 for comprehensive, $500 for collision. Okay? The same make and model. Hyundai Ioniq. Okay? Man, guys, it's the same policy. $118 to $39. As you can see, I have full coverage. I have a premium policy. I love my coverage and I love my insurance company, but I was paying a lot and I didn't even realize it. Check this out. See, look. All right. Hyundai Ioniq. I picked my year. Okay. Hyundai Ioniq. There's my make. Picked it already. And then you're going to scroll down and find your model. It's Ioniq Limited. Guys, this only takes 2 minutes. Okay? It's free. Stop overpaying. Fill this out.
If you're a veteran with a disability rating, or you know and love a veteran with a disability rating, then this new information is for you. If you haven't updated your VA disability rating in the last 2 years or so, it's almost certain you're entitled to some sort of increase. Even a modest increase in your VA disability rating can increase your VA disability income $400 to $600 per month. The unfortunate truth is the VA is a vast bureaucracy that doesn't have any one individual's best interests at heart. That's why I've created a company that is 100% independent of the VA.
VA benefits consultants. I first heard it from a friend of mine who's former military, and he's also a police officer, a retired police officer. What they did was very upfront, very forthright, saying, this is the process, and oh, by the way, if we don't help you, it doesn't cost you anything.
I just recently retired from the United States Air Force military. I did a little bit over 20 years. With the injuries that I did incur, they assured me that they can increase my disability rating.
My friend Chuck, who got me in this process, and he was like, do this, these guys are great.
But no amount of waste is acceptable, not when it's your money. Do you know that the federal government pays for a website devoted to a folk music ensemble made up of forest rangers? They're called the Fiddlin' Foresters. I'll put their music on my iPod, but I'm not paying for their website.
Kennedy, just watching that now, so that was 2011. Him and Trump are saying exactly the same thing, but he's not saying it as well. It's like he wasn't having fun with it.
Credit where it's due. The man could read a teleprompter like Shakespeare himself had come back to life. His speeches felt like conducting a symphony on Mount Olympus. Magnificent, soaring. The actual policies, though, sleeping harder than a senior citizen in a recliner after Thanksgiving dinner. Change became maybe next term. Yes, we can. Quietly morphed into, you know what? Congress is really difficult. He promised the oceans would stop rising, then teed off while coastal cities started buying waterproof furniture.
Obama doubled our debt. He doubled our national debt. He spent so much money and laid out this blueprint, and that was his legacy. And that is what Joe Biden was supposed to keep intact.
Don't mess with Joe.
Yeah,
Don't mess.
everybody knows Michelle. Let me be clear. Don't mess with Joe.
For a president who campaigned on transparency, his administration treated freedom of information requests like personal hate mail. Surveillance quietly expanded. Whistleblowers were prosecuted. But hey, at least the rhetoric was soaring. Then just when you thought the Obama legacy was about to peacefully fade into its overpriced streaming deal, Michelle stepped forward, still visibly furious that America had the audacity to eat French fries. Her anti-obesity campaign wasn't really about health. It was about making school lunches taste like punishment. Pizza became a war crime. Cookies were contraband. Chocolate milk was rebranded as liquid regret. She was essentially America's national gym teacher. Except this one arrived with kale chips and a lecture on systemic inequality tucked under her arm. Her arms received more media coverage than most international crises. And somehow, that was framed as a cultural revolution. Meanwhile, she launched a book tour with stadium-level ticket prices and had the nerve to blame America for being exhausted while charging $500 a seat for the front row.
Well, Michelle Obama isn't as strong a Democratic candidate against President Donald Trump as many Dems would have you believe. In a hypothetical matchup, my favorite kind. Trump wins with 47% of the vote compared to Michelle Obama's 44%. I guess some of the kids whose school lunches she ruined are finally old enough to vote.
Michelle operated like the world's most overachieving school dean, though perpetually disappointed that America hadn't done its homework. Their public appearances together, carefully choreographed, Hallmark card perfect. They descended upon award shows like royalty arriving from Mount Olympus, beaming at each other like a toothpaste commercial, while silently judging everyone in the room for not recycling. This wasn't a couple, it was a brand. PowerPoint meets Pinterest, with better lighting. Then came the Netflix era, because after leading the free world, the natural next step is producing documentaries about how deeply the free world has disappointed you. Barack narrates climate change like he's describing the fall of ancient Rome. Michelle drops in to make sure your children aren't near a Pop-Tart. They turn post-presidency into a full elite influencer operation. Podcasts, books, thank you tours, foundation galas. They found a way to monetize gravitas itself. The Obamas became the couple that crashes the party, then charges for the appetizers. They're not leaving the spotlight, they're monetizing the shadows.
Joey, it is kind of funny that they used to hate waste, but because they hate Trump more, they now love waste.
Yeah. I'm thinking the Fiddlin' Forsters was, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, compared to now.
I mean, over
Compared to
trans
now,
lives.
that's like wonderful. Now we have like trans porpoises in Uganda.
Don't be fooled by the carefully engineered, relatable content. Michelle gardening in a designer jacket. Barack curating a Spotify playlist with the taste of a college radio intern. It's performative authenticity at Olympic levels. A reality show filmed inside a presidential library. Nothing says I'm just like you, quite like vacationing with billionaires and then delivering a keynote about economic inequality. They're not running for office, but they haunt every single policy conversation like poltergeists who never got the memo to move on. Every Democratic candidate essentially pledges allegiance to the Church of Obama just to avoid political excommunication. They've become the Vatican of virtue signaling. Even their silence gets interpreted as divine guidance. And still, somehow, they manage to present themselves as victims of the very system they ran for 8 years. They sit atop a mountain of privilege, media worship, and speaking fees that rival the GDP of small nations. And yet they always look just slightly offended that the applause isn't louder. They are the only people on Earth who can board a private jet to a climate summit and lecture you about your carbon footprint with a completely straight face.
But I will remind you, this was the same man who looked every American in the eye and said, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your insurance, you can keep your insurance. It was a complete and utter lie. So I don't necessarily trust that he really wanted to enact the things that he said he wanted to enact. And as Kennedy pointed out, that all the spending went up and through the roof. But this is exactly right. It's always about the messenger, not the message with politics.
Now let's talk legacy, the real one. The Affordable Care Act, Barack's crown jewel, turned out to be a bureaucratic nightmare of deductibles, loopholes, and a government website so broken it made dial-up internet look cutting edge. It was like building a rocket to Mars and accidentally landing in New Jersey. Libya descended into chaos. Syria became an endless maze of broken promises and moving red lines. The Sharon deal essentially said, here's a significant amount of money. Pinky promised not to build nuclear weapons until we're safely out of office. Meanwhile, Michelle's school lunch regulations were so aggressive they created a black market for Doritos. 6th graders were trading snack cakes like contraband. Pudding cups became underground currency. It was the Great Depression, but in a middle school cafeteria, their media domination was total. Every outlet fawned, every celebrity scrambled for a selfie. Even their dog received more favorable press coverage than most actual policy initiatives. The dog had a PR team. We are not joking. Meanwhile, real Americans were quietly choosing between paying rent and affording insulin.
Less time with the family. I'm taking a second job. We have no voice at our schools. So this anger, Miss Obama, is not one-sided. It's just the men are the ones trying the solution, and their solution is to vote for President Trump. And here's the thing, their women are backing them up. So take that little message, curl it up in a little box, and give it to Mr. Garrison.
Despite being two of the most celebrated figures in the liberal world, they have never truly owned the wreckage they left behind. It's always someone else's fault. Congress, the system, the political climate. They are completely allergic to accountability, but absolutely fluent in inspirational quotes. Every failure was repackaged as a misunderstood success. Every criticism quietly labeled a coded form of oppression. They don't show up to fix anything. They show up to offer elegant commentary on how broken everything is. Like elite Yelp reviewers of Western civilization, Michelle never misses an opportunity to remind America how much she despises politics. Right before delivering another deeply political speech, she's a pageant judge who insists she's completely impartial, while quietly holding up a perfect score for her own performance. Barack still genuinely believes that being cool is a legitimate leadership strategy. He's the dad at the cookout who won't stop quoting rap lyrics while handing out signed copies of his memoir.
Zach, do you think Obama and Trump actually get along? I always think that, like, when I saw them speaking at the funeral, Obama was like, I think Obama appreciates Trump for saying what he wished he could say.
Well, not just that, and they also were both like, hey, we both won twice. So that
On Sunday, Val Jarrett went on CNN to defend her pal, President Obama. I wonder if the president prides himself on the fact that his administration hasn't had a scandal and that he hasn't done something to embarrass himself.
The president prides himself on the fact that his administration hasn't had a scandal and that he hasn't done anything to embarrass himself.
Now that's a low bar for achievement. He hasn't embarrassed himself. But it's true, no one on his staff was caught in bed with a giraffe yet.
They both wear martyrdom like a fashion statement. They departed the White House with $60 million in book deals, a production company, and speaking fees that could comfortably fund a space mission. And still, they present themselves as victims of historical injustice. At this point, they are not political figures. They are cultural avatars wrapped in inspirational throw pillows. But perhaps the most jaw-dropping part of the entire Obama era isn't what they did in office. It's how the media treated them. Every eyebrow raised was breaking news. Every coherent sentence was labeled a masterpiece of oratory genius. If Barack said hello, CNN analyzed the tone for 3 hours. Michelle wore a blouse, Vogue declared it a revolutionary moment. They transformed ordinary human activities, walking, waving, simply existing, into celebrated masterclasses of democratic grace. They weren't just covered, they were canonized. But strip away the spectacle,